Let's warmly welcome our guest speaker today, Mr. John Momoh. OON-NPOM. Please put your hands together. Don't let the applause stop until he gets here.
Thank you very much indeed. Distinguished old boys that I haven't mentioned, and girls indeed of Baptist Academy. We had girls in the higher school certificate level. Revered teachers, past and present. Our honored guests. I have some of my members of the management from Channels TV. Kingsley Uranta is seated there. Momoh, who is a whiz kid in the digital department, and the lady who holds forth in admin and had been in the PR department. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and professor from Olubasi Anabanjo University. This is both a homecoming of some sort and a moment of solemn reflection to stand before you today as we celebrate 170 years of an institution that has helped to shape our minds, our values, and indeed our nation, Nigeria. Up school. Up Baptist. The story of Baptist Academy is inseparable from the story of education in Nigeria itself. From the early mission schools that sowed the seeds of literacy and faith, to the post-independence years when our classrooms became the crucibles of leadership and national progress. Yet, 170 years after the founding of our great school, Baptist Academy, the story of secondary education in Nigeria remains a mirror of our national condition, full of promise, yet troubled by persistent challenges. We gather to celebrate a school that shaped our minds and character, and to reflect on how education can again become the solid bridge between schools, government, and society. But as we gather to celebrate, we must also confront a sobering truth. Secondary education in Nigeria today stands at the crossroads. What was once a proud system that produced men and women of character and competence now struggles under the weight of declining standards, neglected infrastructure, and a generation of teachers asked to do much with so little. Today, Nigeria's secondary schools face a crisis of quality, a crisis of equity, and a crisis of purpose. I did a comparative standing of Nigerian secondary schools in Africa. And it dawned on me, and as I came to realize and deduce from the readings, that Nigeria is indeed, as we know, although populous, even modest gaps in enrollment or retention thereby translate into very large absolute number of children excluded. And because of that, it places Nigeria among the countries with the largest educational challenges in Africa. And so in relative terms, Nigeria underperforms many African peers when it comes to secondary school access, completion, and quality. And it's sad to say that countries such as Rwanda, Ghana, Kenya, and smaller states, and believe it or not, they have higher net secondary enrollment rates, better transition and completion rates, or stronger learning outcomes. And then Nigeria's huge out-of-school adolescent population is almost a worst case maker or marker globally. Countries with the worst situations tend to cluster in parts of sub-Saharan Africa. And sadly, Nigeria is often among them in reports on education exclusion. So why does bridging the gap matter? Across Nigeria, we sense a growing trust deficit. Parents doubt schools, fearing that their children are not getting the quality of values they once enjoyed. Schools, on their part, distrust government, worrying about unreliable funding, inconsistent policies, and delayed salaries. And society questions graduates, concerned that many leave school without the skills or ethics to strengthen the nation. This three-way breakdown has consequences: declining standards, youth unemployment, and weakened civil life. So our theme for today calls us to rebuild confidence so that every child can grow in knowledge and integrity. Let us examine the three critical relationships: school and government, inconsistent education budgets, policy somersaults, and prolonged strikes, which have all eroded confidence. Public schools often lack laboratories, libraries, and digital infrastructure. The government and society, parents and employers doubt the credibility of public examinations. Citizens see education promises made but not fulfilled. And schools and society, some schools focus narrowly on certificates, not competence. And then examination malpractice and cultism for the weakened confidence. This is not merely a policy problem. It is a moral challenge, because when trust dies, learning itself is compromised. Across Nigeria, classrooms are overcrowded. Laboratories stand idle. And the joy of learning has too often been replaced by frustration and fatigue. The teacher shortage is acute. Nearly 200,000 secondary level teaching positions remain unfulfilled. In many schools, one teacher handles multiple subjects, often outside their area of training. Poor remuneration, delayed salaries, and limited professional development have drained morale and driven many away from the classrooms. And that's why teachers who remain in our classrooms today have to be celebrated. And I want some of them who are here today to rise up for recognition. Thank you, thank you, thank you. God bless you. Your reward is here on earth and also in heaven. Now, insecurity compounds these challenges. In the northwest and northeast of Nigeria, entire schools have shut down due to kidnappings and attacks. Some 8 million Nigerian children of secondary school age are out of school. The highest figure in sub-Saharan Africa. Among those enrolled, 3/4 cannot read or solve basic math problems. And in certain regions, the sound of gunfire has replaced the school bell. In others, poverty and the rising cost of private education has turned learning into a privilege rather than a right. And the private school sector, while filling the gaps, and we thank them, but they bring their own dilemma: rapid, unregulated expansion, inconsistent standards, and rising fees that exclude the poor. So education, once the great equalizer, when we went to Baptist Academy, now too often reflects inequality. But in the midst of these difficulties, hope endures. The federal government's recent curriculum reforms, renewed emphasis on technical and vocational education, and the quiet heroism of teachers who still show up every day remind us that all isn't lost. For if Baptist Academy and schools like it, FIMBAS, CMS, could rise from the humble beginnings in 1855, and that's peculiar to us, to become beacons of moral and intellectual light, then we too can rebuild, not merely with bricks and mortar, just like our father of the day said, but with vision, integrity, and a shared sense of purpose. Our task at this milestone, therefore, is not only to celebrate a heritage of excellence, but to ask, how can we as alumni, educators, parents, and citizens help bridge the widening gap between our schools, our government, and our society? How can we restore trust in an education system that once defined our national character? The way forward, I proffer, is to restore trust through shared responsibility. If we are to build confidence in Nigeria's secondary education, we must begin by accepting that government alone cannot do it. This restoration of trust in our schools requires a partnership, a genuine social compact between government, educators, parents, alumni, and the private sector, all working together in concert to reclaim the purpose and prestige of learning. First, we must restore the dignity of the teaching profession. We must. No reform will succeed if teachers remain undervalued and underpaid. We cannot continue to demand excellence from classrooms where morale is broken and salaries are uncertain. We need deliberate investment in teacher training, incentives for rural service, and continuous professional development that rewards merit and integrity. Second, our schools must be safe, functional, and inspiring places. It is unacceptable that children still study in leaking classrooms or fear abduction on their way to school. Every child in every state deserves a secure environment that fosters curiosity and confidence. Alumni associations like ours can take the lead by adopting schools, renovating facilities, providing solar power, or equipping the libraries and ICT labs. And in so doing, we demonstrate that education is not the government's burden alone, it is our collective inheritance and responsibility. And once again, I'd like us to acknowledge Sir Kensington for kicking off this infrastructure fund with a whopping 50 million naira. Third, we must redefine what we teach and how we teach it. The new national curriculum presents a golden opportunity to make learning relevant again, to emphasize digital literacy, critical thinking, craftsmanship, and entrepreneurship. But this must go hand in hand with moral education, the kind we received at Baptist Academy, where discipline, faith, and service were not mere slogans, but the foundations of character. The foundations of character. May the memory of our principal, Dr. J. Adegbite, continue to be a blessing. Fourth, we must hold institutions accountable, not with hostility, but with patriotic engagement. Alumni networks like BAOSA can play a bridging role, working with ministries of education, SUBEBs, and local school boards to track performance, mentor students, and monitor outcomes. We must become the conscience of the system, firm, fair, and forward-looking. Finally, we must remember that education is the truest form of nation building. Every classroom rebuilt, every teacher trained, every student mentored is an act of national renewal. Our nation's moral compass and future prosperity depend on the kind of citizens our schools produce. So as Baptist Academy celebrates 170 years, we are reminded that our founders built this institution on faith, on discipline, and excellence, not because resources were abundant, but because conviction was strong. Today, our calling is to rekindle that same conviction, to make our schools once again temples of learning, temples of truth, and temples of transformation. My dear colleagues and BAOSANs and members of the Baptist Academy family, as we look back at 170 years of this noble institution, let us remember that we are not merely celebrating the past. We are renewing a covenant between learning and leadership, between faith and service, and between heritage and hope. The founders of Baptist Academy were visionaries who believed that education must not only sharpen the intellect, as we said, but also strengthen the soul. They built this school not as a monument to privilege, but as a mission to raise men and women of character, of integrity, and of courage. That mission has never been more urgent than it is today. The future of Nigeria's secondary school will not be determined in government offices alone. It will be shaped by the hands and hearts of those who still believe that the classroom is sacred ground, where the next generation must be taught not just how to make a living, but how to live with a purpose. So as we leave here today, let this anniversary not end with speeches and nostalgia. Let it spark a movement, one that begins right here among us. Let every alumnus commit to adopting a classroom, mentoring a student, sponsoring a teacher, or supporting a reform. Let every school administrator find the courage to uphold standards, and every government officials find the humility to listen. And when we do all these things with sincerity and unity and with faith, we can truly say that we have honored the legacy of those who came before us and prepared the way for those who are yet to come. For in the end, our motto still calls us to duty and to destiny. With God as our leader, We cannot fail. We must not falter. And we will not forget. I'd like to thank most profoundly the 7074 set of the Baptist Academy Old Boys Association for keeping the flame of our shared heritage burning brightly, and by extension, all the other sets who are here today. Your loyalty, friendship, and enduring faith in the values of our great school remind us the Baptist Academy was not just where we studied. It was where we were formed. May your example continue to inspire every generation that follows. Thank you all for listening. Happy anniversary, and may God bless Baptist Academy and the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you very much.